Here at KubeCon in Chicago, one of the things that's striking is the contrast between what we get at a conference like this and what we get at a corporate conference, of which there are many, and what that says about the overall cloud ecosystem. I'm catching up with Mike Levan, and we're talking about this sort of what does KubeCon mean, not just for KubeCon, but for the industry as a whole.
Yeah, so I definitely think that it's all community driven, maybe perhaps a little bit cliche because we know that, but it's very engineer focused, it's very community driven, it's very much around the idea of how to help the engineer and honestly how the engineers can network with each other. I've seen people here that I've known for years online and I'm actually getting to know them in person now, which is really cool. So I would say a big part of it is networking and very community driven from an engineering perspective.
Yeah, and I think that I completely agree. First off, I've run into so many great people. It's cool to talk to people like Nigel Poulton, Ned Bellavance, some of our favorite people in the industry. But even some surprises. I ran into a guy that I worked with over 20 years ago, and he's working for a cloud native company now. So stuff like that is absolutely one of the fun things about being here. But I think one of the things that's striking to me too is I think this is the biggest turnout on the vendor side for a KubeCon event. It seems like this has become really a valuable event in terms of being sort of an open multi-vendor kind of thing. And yet, as you say, the Kubernetes ecosystem, the open source ecosystem is, I don't want to say anti-vendor, but is maybe not as vendor-driven as some of these other spaces. Totally,
yeah. I think from a KubeCon perspective, vendors want to be here because they know how big it is and they know the engineers are going to be here, which, in today's world, practitioners are the one leading the way. So they definitely want to be here for that, but at the same time, CNCF is definitely not focused on the vendor specific things. They're really more focused on sessions, networking, getting people together, all that good stuff. Yeah, the vendors are here, but at the same time, it's definitely more about the engineers and the practitioners.
Yeah, I think CNCF and the Linux Foundation, I think these organizations do a great job of balancing the people who are paying the bill and the people, the needs of the community. And it's pretty cool to have a conference that's driven by a foundation. I have to say too, massive kudos to the CNCF for how they treat people like us who are here to attend, to learn, but also to develop content, to cover things, to have meetings, to report from these events. Nobody treats us better than the CNCF. We're here in a podcast room provided for us by the organizers of KubeCon. And it wasn't a struggle. They were like, yes, we want you to spread the word about what's going on in the Kubernetes ecosystem. What do you need? That's just amazing, and it's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, so I feel like when you go to other conferences, there's definitely like working groups and various things going on, but it's more vendor-centric versus community-centric. Here, for example, so we're recording this on the Tuesday, yesterday was Monday. I spent 4 hours yesterday working with the platform engineering or the platforms working group via CNCF. So if you're on the Slack channel, you can take a look at that. And we literally just spent, a bunch of engineers from all over the world and all different organizations sitting in a room, literally defining platform engineering and defining what it's supposed to be and seeing some different tools and application stacks and stuff. So point being, you go to different conferences, like, you don't get that. I've never seen it, at least at the other conferences. Like, you actually have the ability to work with other engineers in the community. It's like your team for the day, like your company for the day. You guys are together and you're able to work together and stuff and work on whatever projects you want, and that's really, really cool.
Yeah, it reminds me of another one of my favorite conferences is the SNIA Storage Developer Conference. Again, it's by developers for developers. It's very community and organizationally focused. But this thing is absolutely at another level. I think another aspect of KubeCon that we have to hit is the fact that to me, this looks like the biggest KubeCon ever. Now, I don't know how many people are here, but my sniff test tells me there's got to be 15,000 people here. The keynote was very large and very crowded. What did you think of the keynote?
It was awesome. Yeah, I really like that they have single people going up, then they have panels, they have some sponsored, they have some non-sponsored. It's really cool. It's a good mix of seeing a bunch of different people and a bunch of different talking topics as well. Like there was everything from engineering focused stuff to more like high level technical stuff. So there was a lot of different types of talks going on, which was really cool.
Yeah, one of the things too about the keynote is that it didn't drag on for days. We go to some of these conferences. I kid you not, one of the conferences I attended recently, the keynote ended up going over by 45 minutes, and it was already 2 hours long.
Yeah, it's too much.
It's too much.
Too much PowerPoint for me.
But this one was good. It was lively. I don't want to say, keynotes are keynotes, right? Mm-hmm. But it was fine. It was good. It was lively. I'm so glad you mentioned like the Monday sessions. Again, I attended some of that as well in Detroit. I didn't have a chance to this time, but amazing sessions. There's a lot of side stuff going on. Now, some of that is sponsored, some of it is paid, some of it is organizations. I mean, it's a real mishmash. But I basically, no matter what your game is, you can find a session for it.
Totally, yeah. So even this year, week or two ago or so, I got the CNCF Ambassador Award, so they had a lot of stuff going on for the ambassadors, which is really cool. Like we had a breakfast today and they gave us, sitting over there, these like really nice bomber jackets, which was cool. And the whole point is like to get people together and to get people to talk and get people to communicate and get people to talk about the projects that they're working on. It's very, very community driven. And to your point, yeah, there's sponsored stuff and there's paid stuff, but I think we all know, the reality is somebody's got to pay for it. This stuff isn't free, nor is it cheap. Yeah. So somebody's got to pay for it, but at the same time, you don't feel like you're, chained to the chair listening to somebody because they paid for it. It's still very, very community driven. Like, unless they say that it's sponsored, I can pretty much guarantee you wouldn't even know.
Yeah. Another thing about this, well, I guess in contrast to some other conferences, I'm not going to throw stones at somebody, but some conferences exercise quite a lot of control over what the companies, what the booths, what the other vendors, the other sponsors, what the keynotes, everything can say. They're very, very controlling. They're very, very, forcing things to be on message. You don't have to force things to be on message when you're, in the open source ecosystem, because the message is the ecosystem and we all believe it. And I think that that's really evident here too. And I want to talk about sort of how this whole open source world impacts the modern IT landscape. Because back in the day, I'm just gonna make make one up. Like you'd go to Yo-Yo Con, sponsored by Yo-Yo Corp, right? And Yo-Yo Corp would get up on stage and they'd talk about the newest developments in yo-yos. And basically your yo-yo's guest, you got to stay on message, and that there was a whole bunch of yo-yo tournaments, yo-yo golf, you know what I mean? And they're out there whining and dining like their most important customers from the big blue chip companies and basically making it rain, right? I don't get that sense here, and I think that has to do not so much, again, not to give them less credit, not so much with what CNCF is doing, but what the open source world is, right? So talk to us, Michael, from your perspective, how are products sold into the open source world?
Open source gives you the ability to have a voice. You can be anybody from anywhere in the world, whether you're a junior developer, whether you're a principal developer, whether you're a great writer and you're not a developer at all, or you're a great marketer or graphics person or whatever, and you're not an engineer, you're not technical at all. And you can go into a project and you can open up an issue or you can comment on an issue on GitHub or you can go into the Slack and you can give an idea and people will listen. So again, it really all comes down to community, and I think that with the open source worlds, for better or for worse, I think that it depends on who you ask. But to your point, back in the day, you had one tool, you had one company, that was a thing. You could be the Exchange person or you could be the Active Directory person, and that was the only thing. But now we're kind of in this weird turn of events where there's 50 tools that do the same thing. So the hardest part right now is like figuring out what tool to use and why to use it and who's working on it and all that stuff. But the good news is like you can find that stuff out easily because you can literally go and look at the code. Like you can see what's happening underneath the hood. You have the ability to go and work on it if you want to. Even let's say, you're looking at a particular tool and you're like, this is really cool, but I wish I could add this in or this. Go fork it on GitHub and go add it in and then implement it in your organization. So open source kind of removes the you only have one option thing. It creates a little bit more friction because you got kind of too many options sometimes, but it does give you the ability to actually dive in deep and say, okay, I like this tool, I'm going to work on it, I'm going to talk to the maintainers, I'm going to talk to the developers, maybe I'm going to be a developer on it, and I'll be able to grow with it versus just having one option. So I guess it kind of depends on how you look at it, which is where I believe a lot of standardization needs to come into play and particular app stacks and stuff like that, and I think that'll subside the what tool do I use feeling.
Yeah. And I think that that's obvious here at KubeCon too, because you look at the show floor, you look at the vendors that are presenting. There are there's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of startups working on similar tools in similar areas. How is a company let's say you work for a big company, you need a solution for multi-cloud networking, for data protection, for whatever it is. How is that product going to be selected in this new cloud-first world?
I think that's honestly a question that we're still trying to figure out. One of the things that I've been talking about a lot is application stacks. I think about LAMP a lot. And, with LAMP, it was a particular standard that you could take, but at the same time, a lot of companies would change out MySQL with Postgres. It was more of a starting point of something that you can use. In today's cloud native world, we don't really have that. We look at the CNCF landscape and it's there's a lot of tools here in these various categories. So I think honestly, to answer that question is we're still trying to figure it out. We're trying to figure out what these app stacks should be. We're trying to figure out the categorization. We're trying to figure out what it all looks like. I really don't think that it's massively defined right now.
Yeah, I think it's true, and I think that that makes it exciting because it opens up the world to new products and new solutions and new ideas. It also makes it a little bit scary because basically, if you don't really know the technology, you could get fooled. You could come in here and you could have, one of the companies be like, yes, absolutely, we do these things, we do these things. If you can't get hands-on and you can't try it, you may not know whether it works well, whether it actually works at all, or whether it, fits into your workflow, whether it fits into your architecture. So it's a positive and negative. I mean, it's all software. I think most of the companies are willing and happy to let you try it out and so on. But again, it really, in my mind, is all about basically trying things, experimenting with different tools, evaluating different tools, making sure that things fit, which is very different from how IT systems used to be made. I mean, IT systems basically used to be built out of, whatever the CIO decides. And it was a lot of kind of top-down selling. And you and I think we've talked about this. These days, it's not top-down, it's middle-up in terms of product selection. You had a great phrase for this in terms of the gatekeepers at the middle. Remember what you said?
Yeah. So engineers aren't the ones that cut the checks, but they do stop the checks from being cut.
Exactly. And I think that that's one of the things that people need to keep in mind when they're trying to decide, products to buy. As well as marketers and VCs and so on, you can't approach this new modern web scale application world the same way that you did the old enterprise software world. It's not about who has the biggest solution and who has the best contacts. It's about who has the best tool for the job. And because these technologists are so actively out there trying things and experimenting with things, they will find that best tool and then they will drive that up in management and they will say, this is the thing I want. And management obviously has to have the buy-in for the initiatives. They have to have the budget. They have to decide, yes, we're going to be moving in this direction. But the technologists are the ones that are deciding what to buy. And I think that creates a sort of a product selection process that meets in the middle instead of just a, thou shalt use IBM kind of approach.
Yep, and I think honestly one of the really cool things about it is, if you go to one of the big vendors, you could kind of give product feedback and you could kind of, say your opinion, but like you're probably not going to get heard. With these vendors here at KubeCon, especially the smaller startups and stuff, like a lot of the time they're not trying to sell you a product, they're legitimately trying to get your feedback, which is really cool because like you can help shape what it's supposed to look like. Like perfect example, I talked to a vendor back at AWS Summit, and here I talked to him again, and everything that we talked about, like we were just kind of sitting, hanging out, and we kind of defined like a one-liner around platform engineering and around what the product was going to do and stuff, and that was their new slogan, and like they had it up. So like I was able to help them define what direction they were going to be going in, which is really cool. And it doesn't have to be like just, somebody like me that's creating a bunch of content and stuff. Like it could be anybody that could just go in and give an opinion, which again goes back to like the open source world in general. Like you don't need to be, this top principal level engineer to have an impact. Like, how many people in working in the CNCF and like on the Kubernetes release teams and stuff, for example, that are in college? Like it doesn't matter where you are in life, like you can have an actual critical impact on where these things are going to go. And I honestly highly encourage it. It's a game changer for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just say kind of to wrap up, thank you CNCF for supporting us being here. Thank you for having such a fantastic event. KubeCon is just tremendous, and I very much look forward to coming back. You've brought together an amazing set of people, amazing set of companies. You've organized it in such a way that it feels open, it feels connected, it encourages people to get to know each other, and it's not antagonistic to the vendors.
Right.
It is positive. It is product positive. It is developer positive. It's just a great environment. So it's good to be here. If you're watching this and you're thinking, man, I wish I could go, just come to KubeCon next time. It's a great time. You definitely would fit in here. And also, as Michael said, try to get involved. These are organizations that welcome feedback. They welcome input. They would love to have you be part of them. Go to the CNCF, pick your favorite product, your favorite thing, and get involved. We previously here on Gestalt IT talked to Michael about being part of the Kubernetes release team. We talked about the fact, for example, that documentation is a great way to get started in open source projects. 100% I agree with that. And the fact that as long as you're willing to come in with some humility, but also some eager, earnest desire to help out, they will welcome you and they would love to have you.
Totally.
So thanks so much for tuning in. Before we go, Michael, where can we continue the conversation with you?
Yeah, so you can go to LinkedIn, just look up Michael Levan on whatever it's called at this point, I guess X, I think, right? The NJ DevOps guy. Those are the two primary places that you could find me.
Excellent. And of course, you'll find more content like this at gestaltit.com, as Gestalt IT video on YouTube, and as you mentioned on LinkedIn, just look for the Gestalt IT page. Thanks for watching, and we will catch you next time on another great Gestalt IT Tech Talk.